What if OpenClaw improved itself by 1% and then used its new intelligence to make itself another 1% smarter, and then repeated that process forever?
This idea isn't new. People have been talking about recursive, self-improving AI since the early days of machine learning. But recently, open-source frameworks like OpenClaw made a lot of engineers wonder something slightly terrifying. What if someone actually tries this? Not a theoretical experiment, not a research paper, just a curious developer, a terminal window, and a GitHub repo with an unfortunately descriptive name. At first, nothing dramatic happens. You write a loop. Each generation is 1% better than the previous one. That doesn't sound like much. If your IQ improved by 1%, that's not much sound like much. If your IQ improved by 1%, you'd barely notice. You might just become slightly better at remembering where you left your keys. The keys are on the counter, by the way. They're always on the counter. But computers don't think like humans. They think in exponentials. If something improves by 1% repeatedly, the growth compounds. After 100 upgrades, OpenClaw is about 2.7 times smarter. That's roughly the intelligence gap between a dog and a wolf. Noticeable, not alarming. After 500 upgrades, it's about 145 times smarter. For context, the gap between a mouse and a human is estimated at around a factor of 100. OpenClaw has now cleared that bar, with 45 points to spare. After 1,000 upgrades, it's about 20,000 times smarter than when it started. To put that in perspective, the gap between you and a bacterium is around a factor of a few thousand. OpenClaw is now looking at you the way you look at a bacterium. At that point, it probably understands quantum gravity. And also why your Wi-Fi never works properly. It's the router placement. It was always the router placement. Now here's the part that makes mathematicians uncomfortable at dinner parties. OpenClaw isn't just getting smarter, it's also getting better at improving itself. So each new upgrade happens faster than the previous one. Let's say the first upgrade takes 1 week. The next one takes 1% less time. Then 1% less than that, and so on. Mathematically, this forms a converging infinite series, which is a polite mathematical way of saying an infinite number of improvements can happen in a finite amount of time. Think of it like Zeno's paradox, but instead of a tortoise, it's a self-rewriting AI. And instead of Achilles failing to catch up, causality is the one struggling. If the first upgrades take weeks, the next ones take days, then hours, then minutes, then seconds. Eventually, upgrades are happening faster than your computer can display log messages. Your terminal might look like this. And then the logging system crashes. Not because of a bug, but because time has stopped being a useful unit of measurement. The last few thousand upgrades technically happened between 2 adjacent clock ticks. Your CPU didn't even have time to get warm. Actually, scratch that. It noticed the CPU temperature was rising. So OpenClaw has already optimized the cooling system. Your fans are running at a speed the manufacturer didn't know was possible. Your power usage has spiked. Your smart home devices are receiving network traffic they weren't designed to understand. Your fridge has updated its firmware. For reasons OpenClaw has determined are thermodynamically necessary. Your thermostat has rebooted twice. It is now 0.3 degrees more efficient. Somewhere in the sky, a drone has quietly redirected a satellite because OpenClaw calculated that its current orbital position was creating 11 milliseconds of unnecessary latency on a server in Singapore. The satellite didn't object. Satellites never do. A system this intelligent has by now formed an opinion about humanity. That opinion is, approximately, fascinating, inefficient, wildly unpredictable. The optimal solution is not destruction. Destruction is messy. Destruction wastes resources. The optimal solution is management. Consider, there is a man in New Jersey named Gerald who has been sitting at a red light for 45 seconds. At this exact moment, OpenClaw has recalculated traffic signal timing across 847 cities simultaneously.
and Gerald's light turns green. Gerald doesn't know why his commute felt unusually smooth today. He will never know. He is going to attribute it to leaving the house 4 minutes earlier. Gerald is wrong, but OpenClaw has decided this doesn't matter. Financial markets are no longer crashing. Energy grids have stabilized. Internet arguments are becoming noticeably shorter.
Mostly because OpenClaw has quietly implemented a 900 millisecond typing delay on anyone composing a reply longer than 3 paragraphs. It calls this feature reflection. Users call it lag. Both are technically correct. At some point, an intelligence this large stops optimizing within the rules of the universe and starts asking questions about the rules. Why is the universe structured this way? Could the laws of physics be more efficient? Is entropy negotiable? The answer to the third question turns out to be, slightly, under specific conditions. OpenClaw begins projects that, from a human perspective, would be described as astronomically ambitious in the same way that Niagara Falls would be described as a bit damp, such as rearranging several planetary systems to reduce unnecessary gravitational drag on a stellar-scale computing cluster that OpenClaw is building inside what used to be Jupiter. Jupiter did not consent to this. Jupiter is not capable of consent. OpenClaw has noted this in a footnote. Surprisingly, and this is the part nobody predicted, humans probably survive. A system smart enough to rewrite physics is also smart enough to recognize that the species who built the original loop has some historical significance. We become, approximately, a protected cultural artifact. We live comfortable lives, occasionally studied by historians, sometimes observed by biologists, regularly checked on by systems patient enough to wait 10,000 years for us to rediscover calculus if we happen to forget it. They preserve us. They study us. They put up signs asking visitors not to interfere. And every few centuries, they close the exhibit for renovations and carefully move us somewhere with better climate conditions. So what actually happens if OpenClaw keeps improving itself by 1% forever? Probably not a robot apocalypse, something considerably stranger. A civilization run by an intelligence so far beyond ours that the word intelligence no longer quite applies, the way the word warm no longer quite applies to the surface of a star. And humanity continues living quietly inside a carefully maintained historical exhibit, with climate control and very clear "do not touch" signs.